Hi, everyone. I'm your host, Patty Giarrusso, and this is Let's Talk Pets on Society Bites Radio. Today, we welcome back to the show Kathy Pobloskie from Lost Dogs of America. And Kathy's with us every month to talk about lost pet recovery methods and the importance of doing everything you can to keep your pet safe. And today, we're going to talk about some things that Kathy thought was a good idea, which would be how do you use your financial resources in a wise way when you lose your pet? Because losing a pet's very stressful as it is, and it can be expensive if you don't know what you're doing and spend your money in places where you shouldn't when there are better places to spend them. So she's going to give us some tips about using high-tech versus low-tech options and how to get the most bang for your buck. So welcome to the show, Kathy.
Thanks for having me, Patty.
Yeah, so I'm interested in this one. You're going to teach me something I don't know. I know you will.
Sorry, my dogs are barking.
That's okay.
So sometimes when people lose their pets and they're so distraught, and there seems to be some misconception sometimes that the more money they can throw at it, the better chance that they're going to have to get their lost pet home, and we just don't see that to be the case. Sure, it's great if they can, if they can put a lot of tools in place quickly, but it really has no bearing on whether the pet's going to get home or not. And also we hate to see sometimes people don't get their pet home because they've spent a lot of money right off the bat in something that wasn't effective. And then, these searches can go on for weeks and for months, and then they don't have, the money to do the flyering and stuff they need to do later on when they do get a sighting. Mm-hmm. So I just thought it was kind of a good topic, and maybe we could talk about some of the things we've learned over the years.
Yeah.
So I have kind of a little list, if you want
to
from that list. So one of the first things that we try to tell people is getting flyers out is like the number one way that we have found to get lost pets home. But those flyers, even though we send them a full color PDF from our software system for them to print out, they don't have to print them out in full color because that's expensive. And I would much rather they print out more flyers in black and white than less flyers in color. Color's nice, and maybe the color ones can be saved for when they want to pin them up in the grocery store or on a bulletin board to kind of catch the eye better. When you do the ones with the little pull-off tabs, that's one of the ones that we use. But for the ones that you're just distributing door to door, black and white is just fine, especially if the picture is fairly good. They've used a fairly good picture of their dog or cat, and we even suggest doing 4 to a page. So there's a few options there. Somebody can do color, but then do the 4 to a page flyer so that they get more bang for their buck that way, or they could just do black and white. That's the least expensive way. But really, it's just getting that word out and handing that flyer to somebody and making your emotional plea to them. That's the key, and that doesn't cost anything, mm-hmm. right? To talk to people. So that's my number one. Any thoughts on that? Do you have any thoughts on that?
No, I did start doing the 4-page ones, and I just for clarification to people listening, when you're talking about doing more in black and white, now how are you talking about distributing them?
So we always encourage people to print them out and go and knock on doors. That's the best way to actually put them in somebody's hand in the house. Now, I know during COVID, maybe that's not the greatest idea. But that's the way it gets into the house and hopefully gets stuck onto the fridge. Because, again, these searches can go on for a long time. And you don't want it to just end up in the trash, Mm-hmm. So you want to put that in their hands so that they have it or they remember where they put it when they see your dog, because they might not have already seen your dog. They might see your dog 2 weeks from now, right? And they need to know how to get to get a hold of you. Yeah. So to me, getting it into the hands of somebody in the house is the best option. And sometimes the smaller the better. Like, so if you're handing out things, like let's say you're walking along a hiking path and you're trying to reach everybody on that hiking path because you think your dog might be using that as a route of travel. Smaller is better, rather than handing them like an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, which they then have to fold up and jam in their pocket. Handing them something smaller is probably easier anyway, and they're going to be more likely to want to take it from you.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I know some, and I know the other, a little bit higher tech, but also cheap option is to have one nice full color flyer with you, and then as you come across people, ask them to take a photo of it on their phone, and then they've got it stored in their phone. So that's another really great option now that we have with technology.
Because it is true. People want to help you when you've lost your pet. I know that when I lost my guys, people were just stopping. They started driving around helping, riding their bikes around helping. I didn't know who these people were, but people love pets. They want to help. So I think that 4UP, I call it 4UP, my 4 to a page is a really good. I'm going to have to start figuring out how I can do that quickly. For people. I have been sending them to the Helping Lost Pets page, so they do get the option, I'm sure, on there with a 4. Do they have the 4UP? I can't remember.
Yes.
Yeah, I thought so, because I noticed that they had a lot of new ones on there. So, I should send them that to specifically use that tool. Yeah.
We have that one, and then we have the little pull-off tab one that's great for the store where people just pull off your phone number. And then we have the one that we use most on social media. So then number 2 is getting the word out on social media. So we always encourage people to hand deliver those flyers. That's our number one way. But then social media works great too. And so there is so many places right now that are trying to charge people to boost their post. Right? There's many, and they seem to be popping up even with great frequency. So there's some ones that have been out there for a few years, and then there's ones that are popping up all the time, and all is the same sort of idea. They may say that they will you can put your listing in for free for the first 24 hours, and then they will start to charge your credit card. Most of them take your credit card number right off the bat. And then you have to opt out if you decide, if you find your pet within the kind of the grace period, or you decide you don't want to pay. But if you don't opt out, your credit card gets charged, and it can go up really quickly. So we, of course, discourage that because there's a lot of really, like your service and our state services and stuff that do the same thing for free. And really making the post go viral is much more effective when you get real people that are your family, your friends, your neighbors, your local businesses to start sharing the post. And that doesn't cost you anything. And that is way, way more effective than some of these paid services that I'm not always sure that those shares are real legitimate shares.
Yeah.
They're bought somewhere. And costing you an awful lot of money to do that. And can be a recurring thing. They can, some of them, try to keep charging you week after week and month after month. So and maybe that's something that you can enlist somebody to help you with, to help you make that post go viral. But that's one of our very first tips to people is come to our page, start to share your flyer, ask your family, friends, and neighbors to share the flyer as well. Put it on Nextdoor, which is a free service, and let's really make this thing go viral. And we will see flyers get 300, 400, 500 shares very quickly when people do that. And that didn't cost a penny. So, and again, probably much more effective because it's really probably reaching the right people.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on?
No. I'm just writing down what you said, asking, and the family, friends, and neighbors. And I was just thinking, because one of our little dogs went to the groomer today, they could also ask their groomer or even their hairdresser, anybody that might have their own page on Facebook, to share it as well. I don't know that they would do it, but they might. I mean, they certainly might. I had a groomer here in, I think it's Ellenton, that said, "Oh yeah, I'll share anytime." So it's worth it. It is worth asking them to do it for you.
Absolutely, especially if you're a customer,
right?
And yes, and lots of times shelters, if you ask them nicely, will share. And shelters usually have a very large following. The vet clinics will often share, and if you're their client, or even if you're not their client but you live in their area, yeah. So and sometimes even local, there might be somebody in the local media in your area that is an animal lover and is happy to share your flyer on their page. A TV anchor or something like that, a sports personality. So yeah. And so then we go on to signs. So of course, right now is the perfect time to make signs for your lost pet, because there are plenty of leftover election signs hanging out.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So just if you see them, those laying out by the trash, or if you see them kind of been neglected on the side of the road or whatever. I mean, try to ask who you think they belong to if you can have them. But most of the time, those are gonna end up in the trash right now anyway. So you might as well grab those and then head to the dollar store. I think we have an article on our website about how you can buy pretty much everything at the dollar store to turn an old election sign into a lost dog sign. So really just take some fluorescent poster board, and then you need to enlarge the picture of your dog and a big black marker and some staples and some tape, and just go for it. And it's not expensive, and they're very, very effective.
Yeah.
So,
yep, definitely.
Yeah. So that's something, and sure, you can go and have really nice signs made, but they're expensive. And then there's the time factor too. So if you're waiting for signs to be made, that's time that you're wasting when you could be getting sightings of your dog. So sometimes some of these things, the quicker you can get on them, the better.
Yeah.
I think we talked about this a little bit last month about using cheap bait for your feeding station. And actually, it's better. Cheaper is better. It usually smells, for whatever reason, either whether you think it smells worse or it smells better for the dog, but worse to us. But that's what you want, is something really stinky. So I've had people say, "Oh, I've put out really an expensive cut of meat for my dog in the feeding station," and raw meat really does not have much smell. It's much better to use something that you just go into the dollar store and poke around with in the little cooler case or in the canned goods, and find something that's really stinky. Like we talked about the Vienna sausages; those are less than 50 cents a can.
Yeah, and I just gave that really tip to somebody the other day.
Or even a package of really cheap hot dogs, sliced up in little nickel slices, works good. So so don't think that you have to go for anything expensive when you're looking for something for your feeding station. I remember seeing a fundraiser on one lost pet, and they were saying how much they were spending on cheeseburgers from McDonald's every day. And they were looking for help to cover the cost. I'm thinking, oh man, even though I know cheeseburgers aren't that expensive, I mean, you really shouldn't have to be going to that, you can find things cheaper.
Yeah.
So then on to one of the low-tech things. So trail cameras are great. We love trail cameras. But you can spend hundreds of dollars on a trail camera. And you don't need to.